I hope everybody is doing fantastic this morning. Welcome back to Deeper in the Word. I'm Pastor Ricky. I'm live this morning, and I am glad that you are with me today. I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are, and whatever day or time it is, if it's later on in your day or week and you're coming back to join us. Thank you guys for taking time to visit us and be with us today. It looks like it actually went live on Facebook this morning, so that's good news. If you did try to watch last week and wondering where we were at on Facebook, that's a great question. I don't know what happened last week, but we finally did get it up there, and I also put the link to our YouTube channel on there as well because it did go live on YouTube just fine. But looks like we're working this morning, so thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it very much. If you are jumping on live, once again, I want to let me know you're out there, and I'll be glad to respond to that. So, we are beginning to get to the end of, we just got a couple more weeks, maybe 3 more weeks, depending on how far we get today. How are you this morning? Maybe 3 more weeks, but we're in the last few chapters of Second Corinthians. And we are in what is the last portion of Corinthians that we talked about last week. We are. Morning, Joseph. How are you, buddy? We are finally here, Joseph. Hopefully we'll get that far, but Joseph has been waiting for the shipwreck portion of Second Corinthians since we started Second Corinthians. So today's your day, buddy. But it's Paul is getting back down on their level, and it's very sarcastic, and I think that's probably one thing I like about Paul is he is not afraid to resort to sarcasm, and there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek things that he says in the course of the next few verses and chapters that we're going to talk about that I think are kind of funny when you realize what he's doing. And let's get into it. So last week we did chapter 10, and Paul was kind of going back over the points of his apostleship again, kind of hitting that again with a little bit more of a direct approach. And now in verse 11, or chapter 11, verse 1, he says, "Oh, that you'll bear with me with a little folly." And this is where we get the idea of the folly speech. And he said, "Indeed you do bear with me, for I am jealous for you with godly jealousy. For I have betrothed you to one husband, that I may present you as a chaste virgin to Christ." Good morning, Corey. How are you this morning? He finally figured out how to I don't know how he put. Oh, that's on YouTube. He's watching on YouTube. All right. The word jealousy here actually is a little bit deeper than our word jealousy. The word that it comes from is actually a mixture of zealousy and jealousy, and so there's an amount of zeal to it. It's kind of the same word that God uses when he says that I'm jealous for you. So it's a mixture of jealousy and zeal. And so what Paul is doing here is he's separating his purpose from the purpose of those who are coming against the church. And this is a brilliant move, and this is what Paul is going to continue to do throughout the course of this the next few verses. He is separating purpose, and because that's what Paul is about. He's about purpose. He's about principle. He's about an eternal objective, and that's the easiest way to separate ourselves from those who are working off of selfish ambition. Is your goal in this world, or is it in the next one? And that's what Paul is separating here. He said, my job is to come kind of as a matchmaker and to take you to your new husband, Christ, in eternity. And it is my job to bring you as a chaste virgin to Christ. And these people want to keep you for themselves, and that's the distinction that he's making. I'm jealous for you and zealous of you on behalf of your husband, Christ, as you are to be his bride. And these people are coming in trying to steal you away from Christ to keep you for themselves. He says, "But I fear lest somehow, as the serpent deceived Eve by his craftiness, so your minds may be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Christ. For if he who comes preaches another Jesus whom we have not preached, or if you have received a different spirit which you have not received, or a different gospel which you have not accepted, you may well put up with it." So Very simple. If you're worried about false doctrines coming against you, you got to ask yourself, well, what does the Bible teach me? And at this point, their Bible, their New Testament, was given to them by word of mouth through Paul. We have the Bible. What does the Bible say about who Christ is? If someone's telling you Christ is someone other than what the Bible describes him to be, then you need to be careful about that. And if there's a spirit coming against you that's different than the spirit that God poured out on you, you need to be careful about that. For I consider that I am not at all inferior to the most eminent apostles. It is possible that he's talking about the other apostles in this moment. I don't think that's the case. I think that Paul is sarcastically referring to these people who are coming against them in the church and bringing this false doctrine, these false teachings toward them and trying to woo them away from Christ. He says, even though I am untrained in speech, which is something that they accused him of, yet I am not in knowledge, but we have been thoroughly manifested among you in all things. Did I commit sin in humbling myself that you might be exalted because I preached the gospel of God to you free of charge? Paul is reminding them of the fact that he took a humble position as a tent maker, making his money on the side in order that he did not have to charge them for his service when he was there of delivering the message. This is why Paul did it. This is Paul, again, assuring them that his whole objective is eternal. If his objective was here, he would be asking them for money, but instead, he lowered himself to a position of a tent maker, a humble occupation in the Corinthian culture, in the Greek culture, in order to be able to preach to them without asking for money. And then he digs the knife in a little deeper in the next verse. He says, I robbed other churches, taking wages from them to minister to you. And when I was present with you and in need, I was burdened to no one. For what I lacked, the brethren who came from Macedonia supplied. And in everything, I kept myself from being burdensome to you, and so I will keep myself. If you remember, the Macedonians and the Achaeans, who the Corinthians were part of Achaia, the Macedonians and Achaeans didn't get along too well, and so Paul digs that knife in again, just like he did back in chapters 8 and 9 in the how to take up an offering things that we did. And he says, I took on a lowly position making tents in order to make money so that I wouldn't have to ask you for money. And my brothers from up in Macedonia, particularly he's probably talking about the church of Philippi that took care of him quite a bit. They also provided for me. The poor people in Philippi provided for me, so I didn't have to ask money from the rich people in Corinth. That's an incredible thing when you understand the culture